Today we're going to talk to you about creating tomorrow's leaders by focusing on a small change with a small child, huge difference.
But let's start with the beautiful definitions of leadership. By Dr. طارق السويدان, he defined leadership is the ability to move people toward the goal by inspiring them and motivating them. But if we look across great leaders in the globe, we would find that there is similarities between them. Those similarities, they found it in certain characteristics. They find that there is top 5 characteristics that they are all sharing. First, credibilities, honesty, forward-looking, intelligence, and finally, inspirational. But those characteristics, where is best to build them? That is what we're going to talk to you with today. But what is more important is, are leaders born or made?
We believe that leaders are actually molded in the earliest years of life. We're talking between prenatal to age 6. And all those beautiful characteristics of credibility, innovation, intelligent, forward-looking, those are complex structures, complex skills. They're actually built on and based on top of more simpler structures and simpler skills. Eleanor Forgan, a famous children's author, said that the events in early childhood don't pass, but they repeat themselves like seasons of the year. That means that every single experience a child has, good or bad, is having a definite effect on their brain architecture and is causing their brains and minds to develop in certain ways.
The best period of time where we can start molding the leaders is in the early years. There where we can build their multiple intelligence. If we know for a fact that a baby, a 6-month-old, he can start communicating, and if we know by 2 years they start negotiating.
Why is this? It's because the window of opportunity is wide open. A baby is born with 100 billion neurons. So neuron and neuron is making a brain connection. Now what's happening to that brain connection? Hopefully a baby is having positive, consistent experiences, which is strengthening those brain connections, but unused brain connections will wither and die. By looking at the graph behind us, you can see that the brain is firing with electricity at this stage, and the baby is born naturally motivated to learn, exploding with creativity, and now handed over to the parent for the first time.
Congratulations, you're a parent. And now the experiment has started. What is worse, we could handle our precious child to someone else who might be not even qualified.
The path is now changing. Facing some emotional distress from siblings, being misunderstood at home, going through again separation anxiety at school, and time passes so quickly. Suddenly, the child is 6 years old.
Oh, you are a big boy. Suddenly, our expectation is raised. That is because when we were dealing with children, especially men, we look at their size rather than brain capacities. And all of a sudden, we want them to behave, to listen. You have to be responsible, and so on and so forth. However, as the challenging started in that early years, and we expect much, suddenly when we hear that the teachers of his or her saying that your child has a challenging behavior, surprise.
Guess what? It's probably too late to do anything now. Any intervention now will be like you're pushing a 1,000-pound door, where if you had started early, you could have done something about it. Instead of building and creating, we cause disruption.
If we want to create a prosperous citizen for our future, for our countries, let's say, we should start in the early years. And the reasons why is because we cannot leave it for luck. We have to start in the early years with the intention to build or to mold the future leaders. Across the world, there's different initiatives or different work has been made in the early years. We can now take a look quickly about those experiments.
At the World Forum Foundation, we were with 850 people from 72 nations.
Yeah.
And looking at the bird's eye view from least developed to most developed countries, we were shocked that despite our cultural differences, we all shared the same three challenges: lack of awareness, not enough funding, and we can't find enough quality teachers. But if we start to focus from least developed to most developed countries, you will start to notice the evolution of investment and focus in early childhood. Shockingly, starting in Tanzania, Nigeria, Sierra Leone, Haiti, all those places, children are still fighting for their most basic needs: malnutrition, no wet water, no clean air, no clean water. A teacher in Tanzania is saying that how can we expect a child to learn when he comes to school if he comes to school hungry and not having enough wet foods at home? Moving on, a little bit better in China, South Korea, and Malaysia, children are doing better academically, but now because there's so much focus and pull and push down from academics, from the primary to the pre-primary years, the children are losing their childhood, not enough time to play. Unfortunately, although USA, Canada, Mexico, Lebanon, they have pockets of excellent services, but a patchwork of services is causing their children to face diversity between urban and rural areas. Again, another challenge for children. Wow, Sweden, doing excellent job in early childhood policy. Not only do they have good teachers and an excellent curriculum, but they are certifying and they're qualifying all their nursery teachers. And they have universal and free early childhood education for all. Suddenly, but it's not just the developed countries. Countries like Nepal and Colombia are moving strongly in the right direction. The government has a strong policy to build thousands of early childhood centers in the coming years. One day you wake up and you find out it wasn't enough to teach your children about letters and numbers, but you needed to prepare them differently, teaching them about democracy, taking challenges, facing risks.
But regardless of what we call those stages in developed or undeveloped countries, I guarantee you that in the future, the leading country, it is a country who invested in the early years. Those the countries has a potential to grow leaders. But let's look a close look of our regions and what's happening. From our finding that we find in early years, education's concept is absolutely absent in the region. The gap between what we understand about early years educations and what we are doing about it, it is big. For the UAE, for examples, you don't need qualifications for the private schools I'm talking about, or private nurseries. You don't need to have qualifications to be around children. This is also, I believe, in other countries in the GCC.
Another problem is awareness. They're not just babies, simply because we might not notice the effect of what we do immediately. What we do with our babies at 2 months, at 3 months, we might not notice what's the effect happening immediately, but in a couple of years, they'll be better ready for school, they'll do better at school, they'll graduate, they'll get a better job, they'll start earning more and giving back to the community.
Most of our public investments is happening, as you can see in the diagram, in the second part of the diagram, 5 years and above. That's mean the primary schools, higher educations. We invest in a very expensive leadership courses, but those targeting the executives, the top managerial positions. But what is the chances to change the characteristics of such a person in such levels? There is a chance, but it is minor. You know, we always know in leadership, and who has read about leadership, that you find challenges and environment do create leaders, regardless of their age. But as Sheikh Mohammed bin Rashid once said in his book, My Vision, you would see that the great leaders, who can create the event in the future and be part of it. So that's mean, if we started in the early years, in the first 5 years, where is the brain capacity at its max, where is the child that can adapt to any characteristics that we can focus on, we have a better chance to create leaders.
This is especially alarming in a place like here, where 60% of the population is under 30. They're healthy, they're getting married, they're having babies, but are we ready? Is the work environment ready to support the working mothers and provide the right work-life balance policies? Is the nursery ready to provide that high-quality experience and help the children reach their full potential?
So who is really taking care of our children?
Well, ideally, leaving our children with the experts, right? I mean, they understand development, so they know where your child is at from developmental screenings, and they know learning through play and how to challenge your child to go to the next stage. They have high self-emotional control, so they always stay positive and respect your child at all times. They understand child psychology, so they can judge whether the child maybe had a challenging time the night before at home, and maybe they do a home visit just to make sure.
You know, if you ask any adults nowadays, you ask, who is your role model? They're usually the people who make impact in our lives. We don't refer to a CEO or an executives in organizations or a company. We usually refer back to what we have experienced in the early years. Our father, grandfather, maybe a teacher. And that's, but what we want to focus on, it is the role model that you saw in your early years. It's what's going to last with you for a very long time to come. So who is taking care of our children again? Can we afford it? The teachers who is now to be the role models with the challenging economic situation that we are in now, with the parents being busy most of the day outside of the house, who is taking care of the children? Most likely the teachers. Now, are the teachers ready to be the role model that we have expected, or as we expected as parents for our children? This is the questions. Can we afford to train the teachers to be really a good role models? This might be costly. Can we afford it?
Well, if you can afford the high quality, qualified teachers, the right curriculum, the creative environments, the eco-friendly toys, if you can afford all of that, then that's great. But what if you can't? But it's important to know that it's not too late. High quality is not based on the aesthetics or the expensive toys. The essence of high quality is in the relationships, the interactions, the now moments. And this is what Sakina Yaqoubi is doing. She's serving 350,000 women and children in Afghanistan. No walls, no toys, only love, she said. She's going to change the future of her country based on the small steps with the small children that she's taking right now.
The classical question is, who is responsible? We usually say the government. Well, of course, maybe partially, but in early years educations, we find a lot of stakeholders who really care about children, coming from different sectors: education, health, social, municipalities, teacher, parents, neighbor, so many stakeholders in the early years. That's add to the complex of the situation. But what we believe today, what we want to share with you today is that it is our responsibilities. It is the communities and the society's responsibilities. We believe if we come together with the intention to build the leader of the future, we have the potential to unlock the future leader, inshallah.
Early childhood is one of the most complex stages in a human life, and getting it right is as difficult as rocket science. And there's no one sweeping initiative that's going to solve this challenge. It's about the million small changes that we make with the small child that's going to make the huge difference. Thank you.
Thank you very much.